right up here, right by Caine Hollow. That's where one of my neighbors saw a Sasquatch, and supposedly it was a male Sasquatch, and it was running across the road here and ran up the hill. And when I was talking to him about it, I asked him, I said, well, how fast was it running? And he said it was incredible, like watching it run up the hill. You know, that is a really steep incline, and you know, there's a lot of brush, there's a lot of cover here for the animal to go into, and he said that it was going 35-40 miles an hour going up the hill, and he said this is right where it happened. So look at this. That's where he saw it. See where those flowers are? That's right where the Sasquatch hightailed it up this hill. This is a mountain. This isn't just a hill, and it looks like there's a path. So I'm thinking that if I came out here, you know, if it's using this path, I can get one. I can get one, either capture it or shoot it. That's my plan. I'm pretty sure it's coming here. I'm almost 100% sure that it's coming here all the time. And one of the reasons why I think it's coming here is, one, because of the path, two, because of this old couch. It's clear that a Sasquatch was sitting on it, and the couch, you know, buckled under the weight of the Sasquatch. So I'm 100% sure that this is a high traffic Sasquatch area. This is Caine Hollow State Forest in Beaver Dams, New York. See, Caine Hollow State Forest. I was recently contacted by the prize committee, and I just wanted to tell everybody I'm being considered for a Nobel in regards to my Bigfoot and Sasquatch research. And I know that this upsets a lot of wannabes. It does. Tough shit. I'm the only one that has an actual Bigfoot, frozen since 1953. Of course I'm going to be considered for a Nobel. That's just the way it is. And I know this angers a lot of you people in the Bigfoot community, but you know, I'm sort of a newcomer, but I'm not. I was around those Bigfoot body parts my whole life. My father shot that Bigfoot. We'll be showing the head real soon. We're also building the Bigfoot Museum of North America right now. Am I going to turn down the Nobel? No, probably not. It comes with a lot of money. You know, I know this upsets you all. I have some news regarding the Sasquatch body parts, and it is in regards to Japan. There's been a huge interest in Japan regarding the Sasquatch that my father and Morty Lucas shot in 1953, and I've been contacted by a Japanese businessman that wants to help put the Sasquatch back together and make sure that there's a museum, a Bigfoot museum in the United States, not in Japan. And this is the plan. The donation is very generous. It's huge. We'll be like at a building for the museum. The plan is to have either the ground floor or the basement turned into a large freezer so that the Sasquatch body parts can stay cold, yet we can still work on them and put them back together. One of the problems is like 40% of the Sasquatch has frozen debris on it. So we need to keep it cold, but we still need to be able to, you know, get the debris off the Sasquatch. So we need to keep it cold, and that's how we're going to do it. If we have a large enough area, we can have a team working on the Sasquatch, and it won't have to thaw. So that's the plan. It's great for Bigfoot. It's great for Sasquatch. It's great for the Bigfoot community, which I'm sure that there's going to be Bigfoot researchers that are going to be extremely jealous about this turn of events. But that's just what's happening. So they are not going to be in Japan. I want to be very clear on that. The museum will be in the United States. Okay? Now I need to get these back in the freezer, and I have a little bit more to talk about regarding a boat motor. So let me put these in the freezer and I'll be right back. My father and Morty Lucas shot the Bigfoot in 1953 along with a guide, and they were hunting on native property, and this boat motor was used not only to transport the Bigfoot, but it was also used to help cut the Bigfoot up. And I know it sounds crazy. The whole thing's crazy, so let me explain what happened. They're hunting in a large area, swampy area, that's cattails. Cattails create mush king. Mush king is a when cattails grow up, and then each year during the winter they die, and then in the spring they grow up again, and this process happens over and over again. It creates this black like swampy soil, and that's what they were hunting in. So the way my father describes it, and I've hunted that area but never close, because the Indians, after this happened, the natives, they said that it was like bad juju to go over there. So the closest I've ever been with is like a half a mile from it. You're not supposed to go in there. It's supposed to be like sacred land. It happened. Don't go in there. It's bad juju. So they're hunting on this like island that's surrounded by water and swamp. Not water that's real deep. It's real thin, or it's real shallow. But so they're on this island, and that's where the Sasquatch came at them, and they shot the Sasquatch. In other words, if you had hip boots on, you could have walked through the water. So a Sasquatch that's real tall, no problem. You could just walk through the water. This boat motor was used to transport them to the island where they were hunting, and then to get back over by where the road is, they used the boat to get back there too. So they had to cut up the Sasquatch and transport it back that way. So there was a big problem. Even once they transported the Sasquatch back closer to the road, they still had to drag it through more mush king. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like a sort of like if you go to a wildlife management area in the United States, you'll see areas set up like this. Like it'll be water, and then there might be like islands, and that's what they were hunting in. So they had a huge problem cutting up the Sasquatch, and they actually used the boat motor to cut part of the Sasquatch, and there was problems cutting it up. They had to go get things to cut it up, and not everything worked. My father said that if you took a knife and went like this, it wouldn't even penetrate the skin. That this action, like sawing, was the only way that you could cut through the skin. But there were physiologically, there's things different about the Sasquatch. That's why I'm convinced it is alien origin. The veins, my father, you had to cut them with cable cutters. Now, the cable cutters were only so big. They weren't that big, and they had to cut the head off. So I have the head. I've told you all this. I have the frozen head. But one of the things that was really hard to cut was the esophagus, the trachea and the esophagus. And the only way that they could cut it, they tried sawing it with a knife, it didn't work, was using the boat motor. So they started the motor and held the motor and kind of lifted, my dad described it as they kind of lifted the Sasquatch up into the propeller to cut the esophagus or the trachea. So this boat motor is actually going to be part of the museum. It's going to be part of the museum. It's directly related to the Sasquatch. The gun that shot the Sasquatch, that's going to be part of the museum. After my father shot the Bigfoot in 1953, they had to cut it up because it was the only way that they could get it out of the swamp. And originally he said that what they tried to do was they were going to float it out of there. In other words, it was in a swampy area, cattails and such. It was sort of sinking into the mud. It was impossible to drag, but they thought if they could get it to water, like a body will float. So that's what they tried first, which was to tie. This is the rope that they used, and they tried tying the Sasquatch up by pulling it by the head. And he told me that the native person that was running the guide service was bummed out, that he said that it was disrespectful to the creature, dragging it by its neck. So then he said that they tried dragging it by one of the feet and both the feet, but it looked like half the body is sort of covered in debris. So it looked like at a point they tried dragging it by one of the feet, because half of the body is just sort of covered with shit. Now, my dad said that they did get it close to where the boat was, and then they even tied the rope to the boat, and with the small engine, he said it didn't budge. So they made the decision to cut it up, and that's what they did. Now, the rope, he said, was used to help butcher the Sasquatch too, because what they found was that there's things about the Bigfoot that are very unhuman-like, and, you know, sort of like leads me to believe that it's alien in origin, meaning the skin is like impervious. Like if you take a knife, he said that you couldn't puncture the skin, that the only thing that would cut the skin is like a sawing action. The veins and tendons were extremely tough, and he ended up using like bolt cutters or cable cutters to break these. Now, he told me that the rope was used to help cut those with the bolt cutters. In other words, they would cut a section and they would start cutting it. The meat sort of cuts like regular meat, but then if you run into a vein or a tendon, it's very tough. So they'd cut around it, and then they'd tie the rope onto it, and somebody would pull it. And he said that the veins and tendons are real stretchy, so they get it stretched, and then they would cut it with the bolt cutters. So this is the rope that was used to help butcher the Sasquatch and get the Sasquatch back to the road where they could put it in a car or a truck, whatever they used. I really didn't ask. It sounded like it was a truck. And then the rest is history. The Bigfoot body parts have remained frozen and in my father's care for years, and now they belong to me. I knew that I was going to be willed these when my father passed away. He had sort of led on. That's kind of his favor, because I had similar interests like hunting and stuff. My other brothers, they didn't have any interest in this. They really didn't have that much interest in the Bigfoot body parts. My older brother said that he thought that it was gross and sad. My little brother, he sort of thought it was cool, but kind of disgusting. So I always sort of knew that when my father passed away, I was going to get most of the Sasquatch stuff. I received this about the same time. This was not in his will. I received this before he passed away, along with the boat motor and some other stuff that is related to the Bigfoot body parts of the Sasquatch that was shot in 1953. This item here will be going in the North American Bigfoot Museum. This is one of the items that will be displayed, probably a little bit better than this, but it is something that is going to happen thanks to a generous donation from a Japanese businessman. I'm talking a very generous donation. Think of a very large sum of money that will cover the cost of making sure that the Bigfoot that I own is, there's a conservation done to where all the debris that's frozen on half the body is removed in a safe manner so that we don't lose any of the Bigfoot. I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm not eating a lot of the Bigfoot. I have eaten very small amounts. It's not like the Bigfoot's going to disappear. Most of the time I've been eating frozen ice that's on the Bigfoot foot and hands that I have. I ate a very small amount of the meat. And I also have collected some of the frozen congealed blood. So a couple things, I want to take off a little of the congealed blood because I'm going to try eating it. So I'm going to put it in here and just dice it up with a razor blade and just eat very small amounts. I have been drinking a lot of the Sasquatch blood. I just wanted to show this to everybody that this is the rope that was used in 1953 to help butcher the Sasquatch.